because I can talk so much better than I can type, let me give a quick explanation to why you do not want to capture sharpen your master files or your raw files that become your TIFFs, PSDs, PSBs, or whatever uncompressed file format you choose, regardless of the raw converter you decide to use. The problem is that people are using 4K monitors and 5K monitors that simply cannot see the critical sharpness that they're adding to their image in a way they need to be able to see to evaluate it, to do it correctly or lossless, without damage and lossless. That's the problem. Also, so many people don't even know how to correctly capture sharpen their images. And there's so much false information out there. It's ridiculous about this. So you have a master file that you work in RAW, you bring it into Photoshop or whatever, you finish it, it's all done. Then later you size it down for web, and maybe you end up making a print out of it or size it up and make an enlargement. This is where capture sharpening the file for the print or the enlargement comes in, and it's critical. You can get a good 5 to 10% more quality to the detail of your image when you capture sharpen. The problem is if you even slightly overdo it at the pre-size up stage, once you size up, that artifacting becomes a hindrance to sharpening and creates a noticeable graininess to the image, which limits or even completely limits sharpening on the image. So basically, you have harmed your image. So if you're doing this to your precious original master file, it's not something you can undo, unless a person works, of course, in smart objects, which 95 or 98% of photographers are not yet doing. With smart objects, you can always go back and turn it off in the layer stack. So what is now being advocated is to have a master file with no capture sharpening in it at all. Finish it, you're done. No sharpening has been added. Yes, the luminance noise reduction. Yes, the color noise reduction. Like I would add luminance noise reduction to the water here. I would add a little bit of luminance noise reduction to the sky back here, but no capture sharpening on the land. Then, once I decide to make a print or an enlargement, and the bigger you go, the more critical this is to do masterfully. What you have to do is in Photoshop, just create a layer, go to the camera raw filter, and in the camera raw filter you can access this exact same sharpening tab that is in Lightroom and camera raw, and then you can add the capture sharpening to the image if you have the skill set to do this, and you can draw out a good 5 to 10% more quality detail that otherwise you just cannot get, no matter what sharpening protocol you throw on it after you size it up. So this is before you size up. It has to be viewed at 100% viewing distance. Generally speaking, deconvolution sharpening is the best type of sharpening because it's not actually adding halos to the image. It's actually trying to undo blur, but it can only do it so well and it only can do it so much. And in an image like this, I can add maybe 10, 20 points of it, and it looks perfectly great for this area, but as you go farther off in the distance, there's less detail and it becomes grainy. That's the artifacting we're talking about. I see it here, I see it here. You may not see it in a compressed video, but I absolutely see this. If you're on a 4K or 5K monitor, the problem is you can go to 20, and you can go to 30, you can go to 40, you can go to 50, where it's looking hideous right now on my lower res monitor, but you won't even see that you're damaging your image. That's the problem. And you won't know where to brush it in and brush it out. You can't view it because of the pixel densities and the correct viewing percentages that you need to actually see the real pixels. It's not possible to actually see this with any level of criticalness. So I wouldn't want it in this water. It's grainy looking. It looks great here. In the background looks bad, looks terrible. You definitely wouldn't want it in any of your sky or any of your river, so you'd have to make a manual mask for both of those areas. You would also want to paint lower opacities with a mask into your background, and I don't know if you could get any in your farthest background. Maybe 5%, 10 points, 20 points, I don't know. But it absolutely is drawing out 5 to 10% more quality detail in these areas and in these areas where I see absolutely no artifacting at all. But I see it here, I see it in the smoother surfaces, I see it a little bit in these walls, just a little bit. And again, if I'm going to make a 50-inch master print, then this stuff gets worse and worse and worse and worse looking. And if you go out to the edges of your lens where it's softer, it looks hideous, and you notice the artifacting all over the place. You don't want any capture sharpening in any of these areas, and you'll really see the strengths and weaknesses of your various lenses you use. So basically, it's something that needs to be done very careful, very custom, on a layer, brushed in at 100% viewing distance on the right type of monitor, and it can accentuate 5 to 10% more detail, especially if you start getting into, you know, a 24-inch print, 30-inch print, 36, 40, 50, 60, 70, 96, 106 inches, like Robert Park's Lumichrome print in the Carnivale Gallery in Las Vegas. It's incredible. You can put your nose on the print. It was shot with a D810, and it looks like 8x10 film or better. It's incredible. But he knows all of the sharpening skills, and we do teach it in the Ultimate Fine Art Printmaking Workshop in Las Vegas. Got it coming up July 21st and 22nd. Spaces are limited, and we go over everything there is to go over, from in-camera capture to every single link in the chain, all the way to a masterpiece fine art enlargement of any size. I believe in this workshop more than any workshop I have ever done in the last 14 years, and I believe Robert Park to be the guru of print gurus in the world today for fine art printmaking. He is one among just a few in the world today, and I actually believe he even exceeds the people I used to think were the best in the world. I can't even believe I get to do this workshop with him. The last workshop was a colossal success. We had beginners all the way up to advanced lab owners in the workshop, and they were all amazed. And even the beginners got enough tools to where they could step up their printmaking massively. And even the super advanced printmakers could not believe the changes they needed to make to get much better results. So whether you're in production and you just need to implement some of the pieces of the chain, or if you want an absolute masterpiece, master print enlargement of the highest caliber, then we're giving you every single link in the chain that is the most cutting edge in the industry today. And we're giving it to you in 2 days, about 10-hour days. And you also get the MP4 videos of all of the post-processing teaching after the workshop for later review. It's super copyrighted, so you can't give it away and show it to other people, but it is the best of the best in the industry today. So if this was my image and I had this in Photoshop, this is just pretty much a default settings for me. I'm no longer doing this to my raw file master. This is just, like I said, this is just default settings, so please don't take my image quality into consideration right now. But same rules apply, 100% viewing distance, but now what I would do is I would duplicate this layer, keep the original on the bottom, and on the top I would go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and you can access the exact same deconvolution sharpening right here, radius to the left, detail to the right for very fine detail, and go up to 100% viewing distance, and you can ease in the amount that works best. We have noticed that there is only one difference, and that's in the newest version of Photoshop, that it's exactly the same algorithm and affects the pixels in the exact same way, but in Photoshop 30 looks like 20 when it's done in RAW. But I've zoomed up to all distances, including 12,800 and 1,200 and 800 and 600 and 200 and 100 and everything, and the pixels are being affected identically. So you're getting the same unblurring, but what you'd want to do is bring it in. So I'll bring it in ideally for this area. Not on a 4K, not a 5K monitor, and on a quality, maybe a 10-bit monitor. And you bring it in as a layer, and then what you can do is throw a white mask on it, which reveals it. And then what you can do is with a black brush, make sure it's a soft brush, at certain opacities, you can begin to paint it out. As you go farther in the distance, detail becomes lost because it's farther away. This is about 2 to 3 miles out. This is another mile or so out. This is another mile or so out. So we're losing detail. So this fine, awesome capture sharpening that's working really great for right here, I'm starting to notice a little bit of grain on this wall. I'm noticing a lot of grain in the water. I'm noticing some of the grain here. As I go off into the distance, it's starting to look grainy. It's starting to look really grainy back here. Very grainy, very artifacty, and very artifacty back here. So what you'd want to do is get it out of those areas. You want it none in the clouds, none in the water, or smooth water effects. And you want to be able to go through your whole image. Make sure that your corners where there's blur from your lens, you don't have any there. Your far corners here, you'd have to reduce it or completely take it out. So it's a very customizable thing, and there's different types of capture sharpening that work better for different types of detail. But generally speaking, radius to the left, detail to the right is the best deconvoluting. It's undoing blur without adding haloing or artifacting to the image. It's really just tightening up a little bit of that lens blur, giving you that 5 to 10% more quality detail. And you have to do it very careful, very custom, or you're going to introduce artifacting that when you size up the enlargement will prevent the image to be able to be ideally sharpened, and other protocol for making the very best quality in enlargements. So 100% viewing distance, if you're doing any damage, it's going to be worse than the enlargement. So basically, I think I've been trusting people to be able to do this themselves too much, and they're not really looking at their image. Like back here, it looks hideous, absolutely hideous. Well, that hideousness is going to get much worse. So capture sharpening is kind of a double-edged sword. It gives you 5 to 10% more quality detail in an enlargement that otherwise cannot be accessed, but at the same time, if you do any damage to your image that hasn't been sized up yet, you're going to be doing the opposite. You're going to be preventing detail, not just 5 or 10%, we're talking maybe 50% or more. So get it out of your master file, do it on a layer, on a copy of your master file, do it with excellence, or just don't do it at all. Or entrust a professional like myself or a lab owner like Robert Park of Nevada Art Printers to do it for you, so that you can get the absolute best quality detail in an image. Hopefully that helps people. Freebie. All the best to you and great light to you.